You're listening to WhatCopsWatch.com.
They all wear uniforms.
They're honored to wear the badge.
They defend life and property and carry guns.
While they're often called superheroes, they, in the end, are humans, just like you and I.
This is WhatCopsWatch.com.
Get ready to cross the yellow podcast tape
and learn more about the thin blue line.
It's time for another episode of WhatCopsWatch.com. When we think about Hawaii, we think about a lot of things. Hula dancers. The incredibly long flight to Hawaii, perhaps. But you know what a lot of cops think about? Hawaii Five-0. That's right. You can hear that theme song in your headset right now, can't ya? Can't ya? Today, inside of WhatCopsWatch.com, we're going to be talking about Hawaii Five-0 and what they show in regard to crisis negotiation. Is it accurate? Or is it accurate? We'll be talking about that and more inside this episode of WhatCopsWatch.com. Greetings, everybody. I'm Mike Wilkerson, one of your hosts.
And I'm Pat Doering, the crisis cop, another host.
And man, we've got a guest today, Pat. Who do we got?
We have Mr. Michael Clyde. Michael, thanks for coming along. Introduce yourself, please.
It's great to be with you guys, Pat, Mike. Happy to be here for this great TV episode. I'm a sergeant with the Iowa State Patrol. Currently run our Crisis Negotiator program here for the state of Iowa. Been a negotiator for 13 years.
Wow, 13 years. That's amazing. What's funny, too, is when we started talking about Hawaii Five-0, usually there's some sort of connective tissue inside of what we're talking about in the episode. And so when Pat started talking about we're going to be doing Hawaii Five-0, I'm like, oh, he's got a cop that's in Hawaii. Kick ass.
Oh, no, he's in Iowa.
and he's not. He's in Iowa. So that was
close to the beach. Yeah,
definitely far away from the beach. That's great. Okay, great. So Pat, why don't you break down this episode? Break down the series. The question we usually start with is kind of the hype of the program.
Yeah. First, we want to do a little bit of housekeeping from our last episode.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So last episode we had Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 5. Who's George? We kind of found out who George was, right? Yeah. George had a lot of problems. So we had Dr. Morgan Krumike join us. She is a licensed psychologist and police negotiator.
She was fantastic.
And really shared a lot of great knowledge. Yeah. We talked about BAU, all the questionable tactics in that episode. So make sure if you haven't, make sure you check it out. We were a little long-winded, but I think just because it was so interesting and we had a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
So that was our last episode. So let's talk about Hawaii Five-0. So this is, again, it's season 8, episode 13. What is gone, which I think is kind of a fitting title for this one. The series aired on CBS. It started September 20th, 2010, and actually went 10 seasons. It ended on April 3rd, 2020. 10 seasons, 240 episodes. Pretty long run.
That's huge inside of television circles. And for those that are curious how television works, what most television shows, at least back then, were looking for was 100 episodes. Because then you can get into a syndicated run, and that's what the proliferation and usually all the cha-ching money comes from inside of television.
Yeah, and then so the original, I just want to check to see the original. The original actually aired 12 seasons, 282 episodes.
Yeah,
that's surprising.
And mostly, remember, for those of you that don't remember that television show, make sure you go and look up some of that. Man, there's some colloquial policeisms going on inside of that show. But man, it's super cool.
Oh yeah, and trust me, we will be going back in the Wayback Machine because I actually think I found a couple good episodes that we may bring into the What Cops Watch. Talk a little negotiations in the 1960s and 70s.
Yeah,
be interesting.
Michael, did you watch the original Hawaii Five-0? Please don't tell me you weren't alive yet.
No, I didn't watch it, but I remember the shirts. Like the Hawaiian shirts were always what stuck out to me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the newest iteration is far more GQ.
Yeah,
it's definitely Michael Bade.
Yeah, it's definitely not like the original. That's the first thing I kind of jumped out at me is like it doesn't have like the same feel. I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, it's definitely just standard criminal procedural stuff that's going on inside of the most recent program. Continue, Pat.
Yeah. So what is this show about? So it follows Detective Steve McGarrett and Danny Williams. They're part of an elite task force whose mission is to eliminate crime on the beaches of the Aloha State. And so I was like, okay, what is this? Is there anything based on reality here? And what's kind of interesting, which I didn't even know this, I don't know if you knew this or not, Michael, but Hawaii is the only U.S. state without a state level law enforcement agency.
I did know that, right? It's a county sheriff is like the highest office there.
Yeah, so everything's based on counties there, and that's how they do their law enforcement. So kind of interesting concept, I guess. Just creating this special task force. So just something different, I guess. So go ahead. What do you get?
Yeah, well, I guess what I also wanted to talk about was like when this show came out. What did you guys as cops think? I realized none of us have watched this show throughout, but when you realize that they're reviving Hawaii 5-0, I mean 5-0's in the title.
Yeah.
And so, what were you thinking? I'll
be honest. I rarely caught many episodes, maybe here and there. So it wasn't something like, oh, I got to get out and watch this one. I mean, it's just one of those things that I'm not a big into remake guy. That's just me. I'm not a super.
Sure. And Michael, I remember us talking about it a little bit in the prior debrief before we started recording today. This just wasn't on your radar, right?
No, it really wasn't. I mean, I'm so busy with work and family stuff that I don't have time to like sit and watch 100 episodes of anything. But fake cop shows just don't do it for me.
Yeah, well, and that's funny. I was just telling someone I work at a gun range as a firearm instructor, and I was talking with one of my coworkers recently, and I'll mention that I have a good, solid, prolific following on the internet via WhatCopsWatch.com, and they'll say, "Oh, really? Oh, and like, what are you doing there?" And I said, "Well, I invite cops on to talk about their favorite movies." And they're like, "Oh, what are their favorite movies? So like Lethal Weapon and stuff? What is that?" And I always tell them, well, kind of look at it this way. One of the biggest light bulb moments I had, especially with What Cops Watch, was our very first episode, which we'll link inside the comments and the details inside underneath the video, but then also at the show notes over at WhatCopsWatch.com. It was the very first show for WhatCopsWatch.com, and Chief Chris and I sat down, and it was for Mystic River.
Oh yeah, Mystic River.
Yeah, for Mystic River. One of my favorite films because of the director and the cast of people and the storytelling. It's all just incredibly gripping. And I remember when Chris looked right at me and I go, "So what did you think of this movie, Chris?" And he's like, "Well, I wouldn't go here for entertainment." All right, great. Thanks for watching WhatCopsWatch.com. Have a great day. And the gist is, though, as he explained, as you can see boldly inside that episode, is that the whole thing, especially with just about every cop, is that, look, if you wanted to watch crime drama, if you wanted to get engaged in the kidnapping of people, if you wanted to learn about child abduction, insert whatever it is you can see inside of modern day storytelling for crime shows, the cops can just go to work. They don't have to sit at home on their couch and watch it.
It's a great point. Yeah.
And that I'm not kidding. It was a full stop. Like you really have to work to make Mike Wilkerson pause.
Yeah.
And it was absolute, just dropped. I left all the space inside the episode because I wanted people to understand how hard that hit me. And it's one of the revelatory moments that happens inside of every What Cops Watch episode, because in all of you being on and talking, people get a glance at what is the human behind the duty belt, the human behind the badge, the human behind the incredibly well put together suit that you're wearing today, Michael.
Oh, thank you. Pink tie for Hawaii 5-0. I figure that's probably what to wear.
You're going to laugh, Pat, Mr. Pat here, who you can see inside of his incredible decor right now.
I had my Hawaiian shirt on, and it just didn't mesh with the green screen. So I'm really disappointed. I was all decked out with my Hawaii shirt, and it just didn't work out.
I will make sure that we get a photograph of that, and we lace that in through the back end of the episode here, because man, it's epic. It's great.
It's a great shirt.
It's not only just a Hawaiian shirt; it's also a Hawaii/retirement tandem shirt.
It was my retirement. I wore it for a week as I retired. Just everybody was well aware of I'm leaving. Thank you. So but going back to that watching shows, a lot of cops have it. It's like I don't want to watch something I'm doing every day. It's almost like it's a trigger. Like I don't need that anymore in my
100%.
life. But here's what I will say: it's kind of unique because I've been retired almost close to getting 2 years now, and now I'm actually going back to watch some of these shows just because it's a little bit more entertainment for me, not as triggering. I think that's something that I think would be interesting for some of the guys that are retired. Like, have you gone back to watch some shows that maybe you just couldn't do as you were on the job? Kind of an interesting note there.
Oh, it's something I think you bring up that my dad talked about a lot. In fact, he talked a lot about it before he retired because he was scared to death of retirement. bunch of his buddies ended up killing themselves because they didn't have a plan or anything to do after they were done being in law enforcement. And he was scared to death of it. And so again, for those of you that are watching, we always try to keep it light. We're always talking about making sure you understand the fun of what we're seeing. But something to always remember too is guys have a plan. Make sure that when you guys know your time is coming and you're going to be done, make sure you got a plan. It doesn't have to be some giant robust thing like Pat here, where he's got this mega super successful Crisis Cop podcast.
Right.
But it does have to be something. You got to keep your brain occupied. You got to keep your body occupied too. I think that's one of the things my dad had real trouble with, was making sure that he could be doing something with his hands after he was done.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to the show. So the main characters, Steve McGarrick, he's always our main guy. So he's played by Alex O'Loughlin. So just kind of, Mike just brought this, but didn't even remember this, but he was actually on The Shield for a little brief stint. A lot of other TV shows, but nothing super like standoutish that I can really remember him from. Then you have Danny Williams. He's played by Scott Conn, obviously James Conn's son. Varsity Blues, tweeter, if anybody, that's one of my favorite shows, Varsity Blues. Did a lot of the Ocean 11 remakes. He was in Into the Blue with Jessica Alba. You got to check that out for sure. Right. I mean, for God's sakes, I mean, why not? Right.
It's Hawaii. Why not?
Right. Yeah. And then Luke Glover, he's played by Chi McBride. Again, just a lot of TV shows, movies. Again, just really nothing that stood out where like I saw him like, oh yeah, I remember that guy from blah. Right. It just what didn't hit me. Tani Ray, played by Megan Rath. Again, nothing really standing out to me. So I mean, I don't know if this was their first kind of big TV show thing. I don't know. And then you have Junior Reigns, and I had to look up how to pronounce his name because I totally didn't want to butcher it. So it's Bula Koala is Junior Reigns.
Sounds like you were totally successful at butchering it. Great job.
Well, that's exactly what Google says. It says Bula Koala. So I mean, I'm just going
Bula Kulala. All right, great. So what we'll do is that we do have some listeners in Hawaii, believe it or not. Those of you that are listening in Hawaii,
fix that.
Please contact us and make sure you give us the phonetics of what that is, so we can make sure Pat fixes that and I can insert it later into editing.
And again, though, just nothing super like standing out. So a lot of like, just people that have kind of been around, kind of a thing. So it's kind of interesting cast there. So
but I think something that is kind of lost about this show too is that, remember, it really is about the guys that are in the show, but then it's also the location. I mean, let's be plain. The
we're in Hawaii,
sexy,
right?
hot, sexy of holy shit, we're in Hawaii, right?
Yeah. Which you know what? Funny enough, it's kind of how it starts off with, right? Yeah. They're paddle boarding. Where else can you go paddle boarding? It's just like you see the iconic like this blue ocean. It's Steve and Tani. They're paddle boarding, and then of course, what happens when two cops are doing anything? It becomes a competition. That never happens, though, right? Right, Michael? We're not that competitive, and we don't always turn shit into competitions, right?
No, never.
I mean, it's something when you get any cops involved in anything, it always turns into a competition. I think it's just that mentality we have, and it's just how it is sometimes. So,
wouldn't it be cool if your advertising could last forever? It can with perpetual advertising. Here's how it works. Magazine, radio, and television ads are efforts that people might see or hear once, and then they're lost forever. Perpetual advertising provides you with the chance for repeat exposure and replayability weeks, months, even years after it's originally inserted inside a podcast. So even if your advertising is included in a podcast years ago, those efforts are still impactful, providing you with true return on investment, real impact, thanks to perpetual advertising. Are you ready to change the way you and your company or organization advertises? Find out more and launch a unique perpetual advertising effort now by visiting twoguystalking.com/sponsors.
Have you got a cool voice? Do you like to act? Are you quick when it comes to thinking on your feet? Want to help propel the future of training crisis negotiators across the globe and foster the future of law enforcement? We need you. It doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter where you're from. Doesn't matter what's on your plate. We want your voice to help us evolve the way that law enforcement interacts and succeeds when it comes to crisis negotiation. Ready to get started? Access BlueBaggersProject.com and start your role-playing voice adventure today. BlueBaggersProject.com. That's BlueBaggersProject.com.
Thought about a career in voiceover? Need a great, cost-effective on-hold message for your organization or business? Don't know where to start? Check out The Voice Farm, your one-stop shop for voiceover needs. Check it out now by accessing The Voice Farm at voicefarmers.com and see what difference can be made with a company that is truly outside the box. From the Voice Box, voicefarmers.com. That's voicefarmers.com.
Editing podcasts can be rough. Everyone knows that you'll spend at least double the time you use creating the podcast when editing it. Then there's the control freak factor and the gotta get it right the first time factor. And well, it's time to shove all that out the door and make your podcast soar with the Editor Core. The Editor Core is a talented, experienced team of podcast editors that have edited tens of thousands of hours of podcast content, and they're ready for yours now. Check out editorcore.com because it's time to make your podcast soar. Editorcore.com. That's editorcore.com.
Hi, I'm Michael Clyde, Sergeant with the Iowa State Patrol and Crisis Negotiator. And you're watching WhatCopsWatch.com. On the Two Guys Talking Podcast Network.
So then it cuts to this is kind of the main part of the whole episode is this. It's gonna feature Lou and our person that's in crisis. So this starts out, Lou and his son's in a car. They're having a little conversation. I guess Will is his name. I guess he's having a little troubles with his girlfriend. And he's a teenager, by the way. So go figure that, right? So he's trying to give him some fatherly advice, right? And he says the key to happy relationship is a fixed gaze and open ears. I wish I would have had that knowledge when I was a teenager, because I definitely did not have that insight. What about you, Michael? Did you have that fixed gazed and open ears going through high school in your early stages there?
Well, I think I can check off the fixed gaze. I probably had that as a teenage boy, but the open ears, that doesn't come until you're probably your mid-30s, I'm guessing. My wife would argue it probably still hasn't occurred yet.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, wow. So talk about some fatherly advice. Like, if you want to really knock it out of the park, here's some stuff. This is like golden stuff here. Just pay attention. Yeah. So as they're talking, Will gets this random, emergency alert, silver sedan, kind of giving us a little like foreshadowing, right? Oh, maybe we're going to be dealing with this later on, perhaps. So then Dad, Lou starts kind of really get into that. Hey, if you really want to get the woman happy, you got to be a good listener. She doesn't want you to fix her problems. Doesn't want you to give her advice. She just wants to be heard. What do you think, Michael? Where have we heard this before? Well, where's this play into anything?
Obviously, it's all foreshadowing for the simple fix that's coming later on.
Right. Yeah.
That is 43 minutes away, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
That might be the curse of every television program, I think, on planet Earth. You've got between 43 and 47 minutes to wait, everything's going to be just fine.
Yeah. I like his closing though. Son, we have 2 ears and just one mouth, right? And I think that's huge, especially for negotiators. A lot of times you have to remind them that, hey, it's not about your mouth. You only have one of those. Use those other two things you have on your head, right? Your ears. Listen.
Yeah, and I forget where that quote came from, but you kind of hear that all the time, right? You have 2 ears and one mouth, and I forget where that saying comes from, but that's such a cool point, and I think we as negotiators definitely, if it's not written down, that should be written down in every knock and every negotiation that you do is really to remind you that it really is. It's more about listening to the other side than what comes out of your mouth.
Right, 100%. So what happens? Our gang rolls up on the silver car. Bum, 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 yeah. Right? Yeah. So there's the silver car. That's one in an alert. It looks like it had maybe an accident or something. So Lou, obviously, he's a cop. He's got to go check it out. Tells his son, "Hey, stay in the car. I'm going to go check this out." Right? Which that's one of those things I don't think people really think about. When you're a cop, you're almost always a cop. It's just like you have these things that, like, if I saw a bad accident and I'm off duty, I'd have to go. Just me being a cop, can I help someone out? What can I do to help? I think sometimes that gets overlooked. And the other part that gets overlooked is sometimes our family's there, and not that we want to put them in harm's way, but sometimes it just happens. So I mean, I think sometimes that doesn't really get talked about much in the cop world. And anytime you've ever had to roll up on something, Michael, with maybe the carload, the van full of kids, or anything like that?
Yeah, we rolled up on accidents all the time, and it is always the same thing. It's stay in the car. The kids pretty much know because they've lived with me, so they know. I think they sense it too, right? When Dad's spidey senses go up, they sense it too, and they're all have been very good about being spatially aware now, and they'll call me to stuff as well. Hey, look at this. Did you see that, Dad? But rolling up on accidents, like you said, Pat, you always are, you're always a cop, and you always want to do the right thing, take the lead, and whatever you come across, you want to be able to handle. So.
Yeah, and one of the ones that comes to mind, me and my son are going to GameStop of all places. We just wanted to check out what's new at GameStop. And as soon as I walk in, there's a guy, and they're he is screaming and yelling at the clerk, finger pointed, it's to a point where, oh no, what's going to happen here? So I have two different brains. My jujitsu brain's oh yeah, it's on, let's go, right? Yeah, my jujitsu brain can't do that. But my negotiator brain is okay. I get my kid out of here, number one, and then hopefully get this dude. Luckily, the guy kind of de-escalated his own and left, just kind of walked out, which I was oh, that's good. Because
it was the sugar wearing off, Pat, pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it was the sugar, yeah. As he reeked of, as he's walking out of the store, because he couldn't sell whatever he was trying to sell. It's probably stolen anyway, but that is what it is. But yeah, it's just no one thinks about sometimes, we're always on duty, and it's just kind of one of those things, I think.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we roll up on the car. Lou gets out, gun drawn, walks up, and then what happens?
Tension.
Here comes our iconic theme song, right? And we were just talking about that they actually used the same theme song from the original.
And it's a good one. We'll have links to both inside the show notes for this episode over at WhatCopsWatch.com. And I again, Pat and I were just talking about it before we started the episode. And I thought, well, why don't we wait for Michael to show up? We're gonna go check it out. It's good. It's not ultra techified. They haven't added in rap lyrics.
Yeah,
it's very, very iconic, and they carried it straight through. It's very, very well done.
And if you kind of go back and watch, it's similar to the old. I mean, you show the big wave coming up, and then it's one of those definitely could be a ringtone. Not that I ever had one, but that'd be a ringtone.
That would be a very cool ringtone. In fact, if Michael was actually in Hawaii, that would probably be Michael's perfect ringtone.
Right.
Pretty sure.
For sure, it would be. Yeah.
Right.
But it's not. So I have the corn song instead.
Time for a transfer, right?
All right. So theme song's over. We're going back to our show, right? So now all of a sudden Calvary shows up. Everybody's there. We learned that, this guy's a murder suspect. Threw his wife off a balcony a few weeks ago. So that always plays into it anytime you're dealing with a murder suspect.
Bummer.
And this is where things start going awry, I guess. So we have Lou standing outside the car. Our driver is armed with a pistol at some point in time, finger on the trigger, mind you. And a gun drawn, and there's Lou within maybe a foot of our subject, right? So Michael, let's just kind of clarify. Obviously, Michael's not from Hawaii; he's from Iowa. So kind of the reason Michael is here because he does a lot of stuff on vehicle barricades. Hence is what this episode's going to be about, right, Michael?
Yeah, my very first negotiation was a murder suspect in a van in the middle of a 4-lane highway, and I can tell you the first thing we did not do was go up to the car.
What?
I know.
Please do. I mean, come on. Guns
I know.
drawn,
It
right?
sounds crazy, but they do things differently in Hawaii.
Yeah, it must be, right? Or maybe it's just Hollywood, right? So this just kind of goes back into let's just be real here. So the number one rule in negotiations as a negotiator is you have to be safe. If you're not safe, you're not negotiating anything. So you negotiate behind cover with other people, lethal force there to help protect you. So now, has there ever been a time when maybe we walked up on something and we get thrown at that? Yeah, that happens. But then we should know better than, okay, we need to back off, right? We're not going to stand by the car window and just kind of, hey, let's have a negotiation, right? So that kind of happens. So then it switches to Steve. Then because the team is called out, right? Because I guess Lou somehow gets notified, so the team shows up. Not real sure why the team shows up, but it's their show, so I guess that's why the team shows up. So anyway, Tawny and Junior, they show up, and how are we going to resolve this? Well, we're going to reinvestigate this murder because he says he's innocent, right? So I mean, that's what happens on every, right? I'm sure.
Let's go and reinvestigate a murder quick.
Yeah, so that's what happened in your case, right, Michael? You guys, the guy probably said, "I'm innocent," so you guys, hey, let's go send the state patrol to reinvestigate this murder, correct?
Well, especially that quick, right? We all know that murders are solved within a week. We all know that.
47 minutes, friend, not a week. What are you talking about?
Right. That's true. And so, yeah, it's very easy, right? We just call a couple detectives and we reinvestigate it to obviously clear him of the murder. I mean, it's that simple.
That's what's going to solve this episode is if we find out he's innocent, he's not going to kill himself any longer, right? I mean, obviously. So, but here's my question is, who originally investigated this, right? I mean, what kind of I guess maybe whatever city they're in or counties. I mean, that's not going to be a problem. Hey guys, by the way, our special strike team's coming in to fix your screw up on this murder, right?
Yeah.
So because that's never going to go wrong at all. So that's what they're going to do. So they go off to go to this apartment. They're going to go, hey, we're going to go investigate this. And now this is where I really have a little bit of sour taste in my mouth. So the negotiator shows up. And next thing you know, him and Steve are in a pissing contest as who's going to take over. Because Steve's like, well, I don't know if you know who Lou is. And he then gives Lou's complete pedigree about how he was in charge of the SWAT team in Chicago and used to be in charge of the SWAT team in Hawaii. Again, why that makes him qualified to talk to someone, not real sure. But it was just a little bit of a, okay, this, I tend to not think it ever happens when now maybe it does. Maybe the negotiators show up and, maybe those people don't want to give up command, but to me, it was a Hollywood stretch. I don't know. Have you ever seen an incident play out like this?
There's, I don't know if it's a Hollywood thing, but they almost tend to portray the negotiator kind of as a sub-adequate cop or something, somebody who should be in the background and maybe they kind of come in, but they're not cops themselves, right? They have their own pedigree, right? And so we have this tension between the two, and they're both, who's going to talk to this guy, who's going to be in charge. But that seems to be kind of this Hollywood thing. Like in reality, they would probably know each other or know the negotiator's role and be like, oh, thank God a negotiator's here. It's your, you talk to them. And the negotiator's probably like, oh no, if you're already talking to them, let me coach you, which is kind of the way it goes. It's never really a pissing match. It's really about finding what's going on and how can the negotiator best fit into this role. It's not about who's better, who had SWAT experience. Like that's great, and that probably does help you knowing what a negotiator does. But if you had this big SWAT experience, you would also then respect the job that the negotiator does and be like, all right, let's go to work. What do you need?
And hopefully you wouldn't put yourself 1 foot away from the car if you're this tactical
SWAT experience, right? Yeah,
right. So
there's a couple of other pieces too. What I really enjoy, especially working with Pat and Crisis Negotiation, is that you can actually see how puzzle pieces work. Whether it's the people that are inside the entourage of who is doing the crisis negotiation, but then also the people that are now coming into crisis negotiation. When we start talking about mental health professionals, that kind of that marching order that Michael was referring to is absolutely seen now with exactly the same fervor of, wait a minute, what are you doing here?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is they have a better skill set than you do, likely, especially when it comes to talking to people or using a particular skill set or experience set or perspectives to bring something to the game that you simply do not. And something we talked about inside of our previous episode with Morgan is that Morgan and people like Morgan, who is a clinical psychologist, while you might not think they belong inside of the crisis negotiation circle, you have to remember that they bring a giant piece of tool belt ability to just about everything they interact with. Does that mean they're going to be the lead? Maybe not. But what they do is they add another tool in the tool belt to whip out and use to get what you want, which is everybody goes home, right?
Right. And I think Michael brought up some good points. Like if you're this elite task force, hopefully you're working with all the other elite units in the area, hence the SWAT team negotiators, So you're not going to have this pissing
Some
match,
familiarity.
right? Like, oh,
right, yeah.
the guy's going to show up. Hey, I know Ryan. Ryan's a negotiator, and we're going to work out this. Hey, is Lou going to keep talking? Do you want us to take over it? We can help out. Yeah, I mean, this seems like how Hollywood always wants to portray it as these pissing matches.
It's the grinding.
Yeah,
it's drama for drama's sake, and it's something that drives me insane. Yeah. Because what I think what a lot of people are looking for is what are essentially real conversations. The problem is that very often the real conversations are just not simply not dramatic enough, because they help. Isn't that the funny har of everything in crisis negotiation? It's everyone's like, oh, it's a crisis. Get the negotiator, right? But the crisis negotiators,
he's the one in crisis too, right?
Absolutely right, and they're going to make sure that everything slows down and de-escalates. So it's not always going to be on fire, right?
Right.
Nutty.
Yeah. So now we transition to our next scene. There's a woman. She's falling. And here's the thing about Hollywood. Why is it every jumper lands on a car? Have you ever noticed that in Hollywood?
Mandatory. Yeah.
They never just like land on the pavement. It's always like they crash someone else's car. That poor guy that happened to park there that night. Right?
And it's frankly, it's simply because they can't show what happens when people land on pavement. That's why.
Yeah. But then just cut it before they land, right? Yeah. Make it a little bit more believable. So we're assuming this is our woman that, got thrown off the balcony, right? So interesting, Tanya and Junior are there investigating this murder again, which the scene's still roped off. It still looks like, and this is like weeks later. I mean, I'm not real sure why this murder scene still roped out weeks later, but I mean, could it happen? Maybe. The likelihood of something like that happening, probably not, right? I mean, I don't know, Michael, how many murder scenes have you been to where we've held the scene for over 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Yeah. If you're holding a scene for that long, there's probably do need a task force. Not that it doesn't happen, but all that evidence is fresh, and so tend to release those sites back fairly quickly. And but it doesn't fit into the scene, right? It's got to be closed off because we need to find that evidence that was missed, right?
Right. Yeah. So they do this investigation, which takes all of maybe 5-10 minutes. I don't know that, but they show back up and give their rundown to Steve. Hey, we've gotten bank records. We got phone records. It's amazing how fast in the TV world like that stuff happens. And I think, unfortunately, when we do these investigations, that's what people expect. Well, wait a minute. I just watched this episode of Hawaii Five-0. It took them 5 minutes to get these bank and TV and phone records. How come it's taking so long, cops, right?
It's definitely the CSI syndrome, where because you see super cool tech graphics, flittering computer screens, everything happens instantly. Well, that's how it happens, Pat. Come on.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I said, those people believe this, and then we're the victims of you're a crappy cop because you can't make this happen in 40
You're
minutes.
incompetent because you're not matching what we see on CSI. Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
So now we're gonna go back to Lou, who's now he's leaning on the car. So his tactics are getting worse, right? Leaning on the car, pleading with Brad to put the gun down. And then we have a little bit of flashback. So I will say that was something that was a little interesting about this episode was just Lou's backstory of what happened to him in Chicago, which I think, I think it kind of plays into a little bit about making cops a little bit more human. Like, there is stuff that happens that does affect us. And it kind of flashed back to this as I'm assuming he's the SWAT team leader back in Chicago. And the guy ends up killing his son and himself. And Lou, you can see Lou basically takes the blame for that. So that kind of walks into this whole episode of, what's going on with Lou? Why is Lou there? What's kind of going on with this episode? It kind of makes a little bit more sense when you see this flashback. So it kind of plays into that a little bit, I think.
It's also something that we don't see very often. There's a YouTube channel that I'll link to in the show notes over at WhatCopsWatch.com. It's a program called The Pilot Debrief. The Pilot Debrief is exactly what it sounds like. It's when things go wrong and there's a plane crash. And so he just describes what happened with the plane, talks about the pilot, the victims, whatever. But it's essentially every single one is a tragic, usually fatal plane crash. And we do not get to see that side, that perspective from the crisis negotiator. In fact, maybe, Pat, that's a future series of programs you might want to think about too, where you do start talking about the ones that didn't turn out well. And it's not to make sure everybody's on the negative page. It's to help people understand that not every time in 43 minutes does it just all turn out great.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of funny you bring that up because one of the other things we do is we teach other negotiators, but one of the blocks I actually put together just because my team went through this is it's called losing cases. Not that we lose, but sometimes the outcome isn't what we want it to be.
100%.
We had an incident around Thanksgiving. A guy ended up killing himself, and it was one of those things where a lot of new negotiators, never happened to them before. Now guys that have been on the team, we've had a couple of those like that, but I mean, when you look at our percentages, what is it, like 90-something%, Michael? So we're pretty successful. Yeah. So when it's not successful, it's almost like a shock to the system. So I think sometimes that's something you have to let your team be aware of. Hey guys, we can do our best. We can be the most trained we can be, have the best experience. And at the end of the day, that's kind of that person's decision. And if it ends up going that way, it could happen. So I think just that preparation sometimes I think gets overlooked too.
Yeah, I think it's important to teach that resiliency, like you said, Pat, because things don't always go the way we think they're going to go, want them to go. And that's something that Hollywood really can't show.
Yeah, I don't think they can really get into the depth of that, right? Like, I mean, they try a little bit with Lou's story. I think they did a little bit of it. I think it played out fairly well to show, hey, this is what Lou's struggling with. And this was why Lou relates to this guy his name is Brad. So if you think about it, oh my gosh, like this guy killed his wife. Like, well, some people would be like, well, what's it going to hurt if he does kill himself, right? But that's not for us to determine. That's not our goal. Our goal is to save him. And if he is guilty, then that's what's court's there for. That's not for us to decide, right?
Yeah, there's another piece there too, that the context of the bad outcome becoming some of the greatest lessons is also something I think that television completely misses, because it's either got to be absolutely polarized, where holy shit it's all bad, or holy shit it's sunrise and rainbows at the end, when in reality very often it's somewhere in the middle, and the lessons, whether they're positive or negative lessons, they're all still lessons that I think a lot of people miss, especially inside of something like crisis negotiation. Pat, you've been talking about stuff like that forever inside of your classes, in particular the intro class that I took for crisis negotiation. And again, the concepts are that lessons come from everywhere inside of crisis negotiation. I think that's what I get out of it most, is that it's not just the outcome, it's everything involved and then leading up to the outcome. And then the whole thing, the whole tortilla now becomes a real lesson. Yeah. And I think so many people miss that, especially when they're even just thinking about crisis negotiation, because it's always about the end.
Yeah. And then that's why it irks me a little bit when people start throwing out the word expert, and unfortunately I've been labeled an expert and all that. And I just don't think there's anybody an expert, just because I've been to a lot of crisis scenes and not one of them has been the same. Everyone is different. Mm-hmm. And I think when you start thinking you're that expert is when things can start going bad on you. Right. And you don't take into account that, this isn't the same. This could be totally different. I know what's your thoughts on that, Michael?
Yeah, I think you're right, Pat. And I think you and I both would probably be considered leaders in our field. But I like you, there is no two negotiations that are the same. And you can teach the basics in a level 1 course, and you're giving people foundations to go out. But every single person they encounter is going to be a new experience for them. And I think back to an earlier point, I think that you made, Mike, was, we don't negotiate with the good guys always. We do have the people who are in crisis, who are on a bridge and who are having bad days. But a lot of times we are talking to really bad people, and preservation of life goes for everybody. And even if that is to bring this person safely into custody so that they can, face justice. So it's important to remember that negotiators are not just talking to people who are having bad days. We're talking to bad people as well. I think those are both important points. But yeah, if anybody tells you they're an expert in negotiations, they have that ego problem that we need to be very careful of, because there is no experts in the field of negotiation.
Yeah, I find the same thing inside of firearms. Remember, firearms, there's at least 1 million things that are coming new tomorrow inside of the land of firearms. And so when you meet the guy that knows everything about guns, run.
Right.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's nutty.
All right, so back to our investigation. So now we have DNA miraculously so fast.
Yeah.
So DNA comes back. It is Brad's DNA underneath his wife's fingernails. So obviously he's got to be guilty. So that's kind of the conclusion, right? So DNA fingernail. Okay. Oh well, he's guilty. So then there goes that kind of a stance. Well, I guess we can't prove he's innocent because he's guilty.
They have a fast lab too, a lab that can turn that DNA analysis around.
Super fast, right?
Yeah, we send all of our stuff to Hawaii for DNA analysis.
And what's worse is what happened the weeks where this other investigation was. Like, evidently, did they not have the rush on the DNA? I mean, right? So then Lou, all of his tactical background, he decides, hey, you know what? I'm sick of leaning on the car. I'm just going to go ahead and get in the car with our guy with the gun.
Why not?
Right?
Why not? It's a Thursday, man. Come on.
Nothing else could go wrong here, right? Right? So here's where I will play a little bit of devil's advocate, because
if you say you got in a car one time, I'm going to vault the desk.
Never. But in the
Okay.
early 70s, negotiators did some dumb stuff because we just didn't know any better. And one of the funniest, I don't know if it's funny, but he lived through it, so I guess that it's funny at the time. Now looking back, but I had a negotiator from Baltimore County tell me a story. He's like, yeah, he goes, I'm negotiating with a guy with a car bomb in his car. And I'm like, oh my gosh. He goes, guess where I'm negotiating from? I'm like, oh. He goes, I'm standing next to him, kind of like where Lou was. And he goes, the reason is because we were dumb. Our whole thing was about communication and not our safety. He goes, so I'm literally negotiating with a guy with a car bomb.
Wow.
Talking through the driver's side window, and it's just stuff we did back in because we just didn't know any better. Obviously what happened, probably we had a bunch of cops die because of doing stuff like that. And we're
100%.
like, oh, let's change our tactics. So
we still see that. I mean, that's not just a way back thing. There are still cops today who will forego personal safety because they think if they can get, right up next to the person or give a handshake or whatever it is, that's going to build trust and empathy. So there still today, unfortunately, are a lot of negotiators themselves who will put themselves in unnecessary harm because they think it's going to win the day. Like jumpers,
I was just going to say that.
You don't grab a bridge jumper, but they will go up with that hero mindset. So,
and unfortunately, what I really dislike is when that does happen, again, we have to know the difference between luck and skill and training, and grabbing that bridge jumper, that's luck. But what happens is now all of a sudden the news gets a hold of it. The agency's like, oh, this is awesome. We saved this guy's life. We did this. Now all of a sudden we've created this thing of it's okay to grab the jumper, which it's not okay to grab the jumper. You're putting yourself in a dangerous situation. Don't grab the jumper. But unfortunately, that's what happens sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, 100%. So yeah, we got this DNA back, and it's like super fast. So now we're like, okay, well, let's go back and see if we can let's go back to the scene yet again, in the 40-minute time period, which again, how far is this scene? Is like just around the block? I mean, maybe it is, because maybe that's where the guy decided he was going to crash his car next to his
everything inside of cities and television is just 8 minutes away, Pat. I thought you knew that. Sorry.
It must be, yeah.
Didn't get the memo, apparently.
So now we have another flashback scene. Now we have Lou standing in the rain. So this is our other thing. And I love it, but every funeral in a TV show, it's always raining. It's always cloudy. It's always raining.
The streets are always slick.
Yeah, it's always
every
downcast,
single time.
and it's like, is there ever a funeral where it's like somewhat sunny outside?
No.
Yeah, but no, it's not. So it makes it a little bit more, I guess, dramatic, and whatnot. So Lou's, obviously, it's a funeral of the little boy, so he's kind of standing back there. But as he's flashed back on this, Brad is talking about how he went to his wife's funeral. Because he felt because he's innocent, right? Why wouldn't he go to the funeral? And he's just talking about that experience. Can you imagine, like, everybody thinks you killed your wife and then you show up to the funeral? It kind of reminds me, and I don't know why, but when I saw this, it reminded me of like the OJ thing, like, right?
100%. Why is it everybody thinks of OJ when you think about going to the funeral?
But I mean, it was almost like everybody knew,
everybody.
Like, OJ did this, but yet he's still at the funeral. Like, how could you imagine being at that funeral? No. Just like, what would have, like, you can imagine the tension there, between the,
especially knowing the passion that the Brown family had for Nicole, man. That I don't know how that didn't turn sour quick. I don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like, wow, yeah. So what happens at the scene? Well, all of a sudden, Junior finds this ATM across the street, which obviously the investigators that spent these weeks and still holding the scene must have missed somehow, right? Like, oh, by the way, there's an ATM across the street, and just so happens they still might have the video from several weeks later, because that always works out, right? They never tape over anything. So that's kind of going on in the background. Now we're back to our crisis scene, and this is where things get
food here.
What's that? Go ahead.
Is food here? Is this the food part?
No, this is the more interesting part. This is where the man shows up on the scene and breaks through.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden,
Dad.
Yeah, Dad shows up, and what happens? Obviously, it's a shitty perimeter for Dad to get even where he's at. But then he gets into the outer perimeter. Yeah, do people break our outer perimeter? It happens a lot, unfortunately. Yeah. Do people ever break our inner perimeter? I would hope not. But it happens. So Dad breaks up. They end up finding out and it turns out Dad has a gun on him, right? So, hey,
of course he does.
Yeah,
what am I thinking?
So instead of hey, let's get Dad out of here. No, let's just leave him on scene.
Leave him there.
Because that's a great idea. Nothing bad could happen.
It's just a chemistry set, Pat. Come on, calm down. Slow it down a little bit there, negotiator man.
Yeah. So,
I'm thinking TPI here, aren't you, Pat?
Yeah, 100% no. but I'm surprised they didn't try and throw that out there though. Hey, let's get Dad to give him.
Let's put him on. Yeah, let's bring him up.
Let's put Dad on the phone because nothing could go wrong there, right? Yeah. So bad mistakes yet again. Yeah, unfortunately. So it is funny though, as far as we talk about inner perimeters. I've had a couple stories where we got our perimeter set up, everything's great. We're gonna start shooting calls in. We're on one. I can remember this pretty vividly. We're all, this guy, I think he had gotten a domestic, was armed, supposedly in the house. 30 minutes later, here comes this guy strolling up to our inner perimeter, and it just so happens it's our suspect. Hey, fellas, what's going on? So sometimes it does happen. So it's just one of those things. I don't know. Do you have a bad inner perimeter story, Michael?
Well, we've had lots of inner perimeters with no suspect. So,
yeah, unfortunately that happens a lot too. There's no way that guy could have got out because we got here so fast. And then 2 hours later, back doors open and the guy's not there, right? Yeah. So we kind of that actually happens more times than not, unfortunately. So
and so how is that discovered? Are you guys you send in the robot and the robot finds the open door?
Eventually, yeah. Usually it's probably now it's more drones, but yeah, back in the day it was back before we had all the technology, we had to send a TAC team in, and they would have to do the slow, methodical search to clear the house. And then again, not the safest thing to do. But if you're there for 3-4 hours and no contact, and you're kind of iffy, then that may be what you have to do. Technology is awesome now because we don't have to put guys in harm's way. So yeah, between robots and drones, we can do a pretty good job of clearing the house, and throw some canine in there too. And then but that's usually what ends up happening. We clear the house, and next thing you know, it's back door is open or basement door is open or there's a window screen broken and our guy's not there anymore. So
Pat was able to engineer a scenario where we essentially took over an abandoned bank right across the street from the PD you used to work at, Pat.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most extraordinary instance of technology that I've ever seen, especially as a role player for Crisis Negotiation, because it was everywhere. It was drones, it was robots, it was every piece of equipment and 60 dudes out there in uniform. Man, it was cool.
Yeah.
It was kind of a terrifying future, isn't it? I mean, it's this drone technology is just going to get more and more capable. And I can only imagine being inside of a crisis site and then hearing the buzz of a drone or seeing those new dogs that walk around, clanking upstairs towards me. That's terrifying to think how in 10 years where we're going to be as far as drone technology.
Yeah. And that's actually something else that I don't think a lot of people get a lot of input on is the perspective of what's happening with the person that is being talked down. Actually, Pat's got an interview that's coming up. It's actually with one of the hostages inside of a crisis negotiation. And I think that's going to be a stupendous perspective to share with people because more often than not, they don't want to talk about their story. Pat's been able to find one I think is going to be just extraordinary.
Yeah. I mean, what kind of perspective is that? We get to talk to a hostage and how do you what was going on with you and how did that work? And unfortunately in this one, there was 2 different tactical teams involved and they were kind of competing against each other. Who's going to get the win? So it made it really difficult for the hostage because he's hearing all this go down. So I mean, like not good, right? Like not good when that poor hostage is like, oh my God, they can't even get their crap together to get me out safely.
Yeah, and obviously a shitty situation, but again, you start painting lessons, and I love that. I love that. Not only is it great content, YouTube is perfect for displaying lessons of just about every kind, and I can't imagine a better place than for that. That's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to our vehicle where Lou now is sitting next to our guy Brad. So this is where I guess things aren't going well, which maybe it should have happened a while ago. But now we got our snipers; they're locked in. We get the green light or let's go hot, which I always love that because that's always a big dramatic thing. We have to give them the green light. I don't know about how your tactical team works, Michael, but our guys, they have the power of they don't need a hey, we're going hot, or hey, we're doing this. If they see the threat, they have to take the threat out. I mean, that's usually what snipers do.
Yeah, that was, I think that was kind of that old school mentality, right? What your discretion as an officer doesn't all of a sudden cease to exist when you're on a crisis site. Like police officers always have that discretion to use deadly force, whether they're pulling over a car or a sniper on a crisis scene. I think if you see a threat, you should be able to handle it without getting the green light.
Right. So this is where, food, and it's the other thing with Hollywood. It seems like they always need food. They always need pizza, some kind of delivery. It's like one of those things where like, yeah, every hostage incident, they're going to ask for food and they need that pizza delivery. Right. So
I have a question about the green light. Is the green light, what is the origin state for that? There has to be something inside the process that is disguised as the green light moment. What is it?
Well, I'm thinking early 70s, 80s. I think.
Is it really just that it's because it's older concept?
I think so. I think back in the day, cops didn't have as much discretion. Everything was like from the high up. Like you had to get like a commander's approval to take action. I think at some point in time. And
I think today where that probably fits in is if deadly force is authorized as a way, there's a hostage situation, right? And the only way to end this is going to be deadly force. I can see that being a command level decision, like, hey, we're going to take this guy out, if we get a clear shot, and that being something that's transferred down and being kind of a quote unquote green light. But just again, if he comes out with his hands up, it still doesn't give you the green light to kill him, right? There's still got to be context behind that. So
I know. I think again, it gets down to that. It's not. Nothing is just black and white.
Right.
There's always level of in between that is just. I think it's too hard to tell in the storytelling process inside of 43 minutes.
Yeah. So now we're going kind of back to Lou's backstory. So we see a flashback. He's at the bar drinking. I think that's another thing. But unfortunately, I think this is something that Hollywood gets right. Is a lot of times coping mechanisms for cops is alcohol. And it's not the greatest, but I think that's what happens. And then we all know usually what happens if you start down the alcohol abuse path is this, it just kind of leads to where he's going. Then you kind of, it shows him in his office. He's trying to open his safe, screaming at his wife because he's drunk and can't remember his combination, but he's blaming his wife. You changed the combination. And that's kind of leading, well, what's he trying to do as far as getting his safe? And it's kind of inferred that more than likely what is he trying to do? He's trying to get access to his weapon, right?
Yeah.
So it just kind of plays into this like that downward spiral of, well, why is he like that? All because of this incident with the kid that ended up dying, right? So a little bit of a backstory. And I think they tried to do a decent job of how sometimes cops lived with these mistakes and how it can affect them throughout their career, I think.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's probably the most truthful part of this episode is showing that struggle that a lot of cops deal with, whether that's seeing big trauma from fatal accidents to homicide scenes to anything that deals with a child, all those things. Cops tend to keep that bottled inside. And that's, I think we've done a better job with peer support and critical incident stress debriefs to kind of manage these things. But yeah, that's a big part of law enforcement. It was in the back too. Mike, you mentioned your dad. Those old school cops, you just bottled it down. And then everything you went to was just another part in that bucket. You just kept filling it up.
Right. And not only that, the I love that you talked about peer support. That's something that I think what the original origin point for WhatCopsWatch.com was. I was talking to Chris. I brought him on to talk about a television show we were watching, and he started talking about being the anomaly, him being the anomaly inside of the concept of law enforcement thought when it comes to not only peer support but just talking about feelings. And I instantly latched onto that because it's something that there needs to be an outlet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have painted What Cops Watch is. It's where you get to come on and you get to talk because you're human. And then in you talking as a human, people get to see that cops are human. It's just math, right?
Yep.
And it's not nearly as pronounced as it was, but it's still a very big problem. I think all of us that either know or interact with cops regularly, we can see and we know of stories where guys are still bottled up today.
Yeah.
Even I don't think we've ever seen a time where there are not only more outlets, but there's more ease of access to those outlets to go and get help that is essentially anonymous help. And we'll have a series of links inside the description here inside of the video presentation on YouTube, but then over in the show notes at whatcopswatch.com, so that again, if you guys are out there and you need some help, there is not only your peers, there's also all kinds of help that is just a third party to just sit and listen. One of the advents that we've had in just the last 5 years is the 988 number. 988 number has been extraordinary, not only for law enforcement, but also for veterans in the military. It is an extraordinary resource. It is literally an ear that can be tapped any time of day or night from anywhere, whether you're on a cell phone, whether you're texting, whether you've got an internet connection someplace. It doesn't make any difference where you are. You have access to it. And I urge all of you that just need to have somebody listen to you talk to tap 988. It's such a valuable resource.
Yeah, and it plays into that crisis thing. And when we show up, a lot of times that's all people want is they just want someone to listen to them.
Want to be heard.
They want to be heard, right?
Want to be heard.
So yeah, I think that's a huge resource, and make sure you take advantage of that. So all right, so back to our scene. So obviously it's super quick. The food arrives, pizza's here. They quick baked it. Steve, So Steve decides he's going to deliver that himself because he's this elite
because everyone delivers himself.
Yeah, he's this elite tactical
pizza delivery man.
Yeah, so great idea. Not so much, but it is what it is, right? So he's in the process of he's going to deliver this pizza, which it starts aggravating Brad a little bit. So now it's just like, oh my gosh, now it's kind of ramping up. You can see that it's building, and then what happens? Dad steals cop's gun, shoots Brad. Dad gets shot in the back. It's okay. He's okay because there's no blood. It's just one of those things like, come on, this is what happens. Like, really? I mean, it's just like we have to amp this up instead of just let's actually have the story play itself out. No, we have to amp up with some idiotic. I don't know. I don't know where to go with this. It's just like the far-fetchedness of like, so number one, he's gonna get that cop's gun, whatever retention holster that is, and then he's gonna be able to fire off a round without anybody getting to him, and then we're going to be able to get him in the back without any injury whatsoever, and everything will be fine. So I mean, again, there's the Hollywood stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a component that's missing too. Is that again, when violence is solicited inside of just about any crisis negotiator situation, there usually is an onset of violence to make sure that there is no more violence, and that's also what's missing. There isn't a jump-in point that's completely missing.
And the other thing that's totally missed in this whole episode is if we're about de-escalating and preventing further violence, is after this happens, more than likely it's going to be very difficult to get Brad back down and get him on that teeter-totter. It's almost not going to happen in the next 30 minutes, right? It could happen, but it's going to take a long time. Again, it's another thing that they just totally screw up. But the good news is the pizza gets delivered, so that's always it's always great, right? And it's just a flesh wound on Brad. He's just hitting the shoulder, no biggie, right? So it's just a flesh wound.
Colloquial flesh wound in the shoulder. Never mind.
So it's all
nothing
good.
vital there.
Yeah. So the pizza's delivered, everything's awesome. So now we get into Brad kind of really admitting what's going on, talking about how his wife's facing with depression. history of suicide. And then he basically does say, yeah, it is my fault, which kind of leaves you like, oh, what does that really mean? But you can see kind of where this is going, the kind of angle it's going down, right? So miraculously, we get this ATM footage, and what does it show? It shows Brad leaving before his wife jumps. So obviously he's innocent, which is funny because I don't know how they even figured this out. Like, when did they know she jumped? How does this like? But we did all this investigation, so fast, and it was just all came together, right?
Pat, I think they figured it out because they read it in the script.
Oh, gotcha.
Pretty sure.
The subpoena for the ATM video, and then getting that from the ATM company, which is probably located in Germany or someplace.
Right.
That stuff always works just that fast. It does. I mean, for people listening, who are not cops, this is exactly, we do this all the time. Just see an ATM, get the video.
Yeah.
They have little thumb drives. We just plug our sticks in there and get the video.
Yeah. By the way, when we started this point, I actually asked for the German company to send us that video. I have it in case you want to watch
it. Right.
Yeah.
It was just that quick.
Brad. Yeah. But unfortunately, this is what people think really happens, and they get
terrible.
super pissed at you when you're like, okay, I'll get back with you in like a couple weeks when we get the video. What do you mean a couple weeks? You should have it like in the next 20 minutes.
See the video right now.
Yeah. So I mean, that again, it's just that Hollywood expectations that leads us to like, man, we're just dumb cops because we can't get the video in 10 minutes, right? So, but good news, Brad.
It's making me frustrated just talking about this again. This is why I don't watch these shows.
Right. Yeah.
Dude.
And
100%.
And that's another
struggle is real. Man.
I think that's another reason why I was on the job. I tended not to because I get so frustrated with. And the other thing is nobody would want to watch it with me because I'd be pointing all this stuff out as the episode's going on. That would never happen. That would never happen. So now I've just taken a step back and just thought, you know what? This is just entertainment at this point because there's nothing real here, right? So that's kind of what you almost have to do with the Hollywood cop shows. It's just like, hey, this is entertainment. There's this. This is not even be close to realism, I guess. So
there's usually a peril that's inside of television-based anything when you're soliciting law enforcement, and the peril is this: for the first 4 hours of whatever episode is being filmed, they'll have a consultant for sure.
Oh yeah.
Who then leaves and doesn't ever come back.
Well, it's funny. We actually had Jack Cambry on the Crisis Cop podcast, right?
Yeah.
Even Jack said, like, yeah, they pay me, but it doesn't mean they have to listen to me. Right. And that's exactly what Jack said is like, yeah, I'm a consultant, but doesn't mean they have to listen to me. They're going to write what they want to write.
Jack will explain, well, as you can see, it's supposed to go kind of like this. And then the director will pat him on the head and say, okay, thanks, Jack. Go have a sandwich.
Right. Yeah. And then they do what they do anyway.
Whatever they're going to do anyway. Right. Yeah.
What you do in real life is boring.
Yeah. Right.
It is.
Nobody wants to watch an 8-hour negotiation of us just sitting there talking.
It is a snoozer, man. Absolutely.
All right. So Brad's innocent. Now we're flashback to Lou, and Lou is this downward spiral, right? Now he got Lou sitting in his lounge chair, his wife's getting ready to leave. And this is kind of one of those things that's really realistic as far as he's made the decision he's going to kill himself. So he's at peace and, kind of tells his wife he loves him for that last time. As she goes out the door, he goes and I guess now has the safe combination, grabs his gun. How serious is it? He pulls the hammer back. It's pretty serious, right? Pulls the hammer back and in the process of probably ending his life. And then all of a sudden something happens. He hears something in the kitchen breaking. So now it's turned into, I'm going to kill myself to wait, there's an intruder in my house. Goes to investigate that. And it's just his son, Will. He had broken a dish. But that's, I think, what saved him from not killing himself. And unfortunately, if you ever, I think there was a documentary called The Bridge, and it was about the Golden Gate Bridge, and it actually talked to one of the survivors, and their biggest regret is he said as soon as he jumped, he wanted to take it back. And it's just having that moment of, what, that's pretty powerful when someone who really wanted to end their lives now is doing it and has that, wait a minute, I didn't want to do this. So it's always
great show to watch too, Pat. Yeah, because it does. Every single person they interviewed, and not many survived that jump, but every single one that did instantly regretted their decision. Instantly.
Yeah. So it's just like that cuff of the moment kind of a thing. Yeah. It's a lot of times alcohol or drugs are involved, right? It gets that thing to get them to that point. But when you know that fact, maybe it's that time to, you know what, maybe this isn't the greatest idea. Maybe I really need to fight this battle and see what happens. So that's what happened with Lou. So basically his son saved his life by dropping that plate. And that's kind of how his journey kind of went from there. So
as crisis negotiators, can we quick talk about the ramp when you start hearing the colloquial phrases and utterings of what sounds like people want to kill themselves? What goes through the crisis negotiator brain when that happens, guys?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to ask Pat. Do you hear this said? Permanent solution to a temporary problem. Do you hear that said? And I hate that phrase, but I've heard people say that.
Yeah.
And I think that totally diminishes what's going through a person, because if they are on a bridge ledge or holding a gun to their head, they're in such pain.
Yeah.
Not only emotionally, but physically too. They're in a lot of pain. And to say stuff like that doesn't.
Yeah, I think it almost diminishes how big of an impact it is. Like, you're ending your life. It's not a problem, right? This is a bad situation right now. But just kind of going back to what Mike said is if you hear that, you look for signs, like the guy is he starting to pray? Is he like, especially if it's like a jumper, he's looking up, he's looking down, takes his glasses off. That's when you just need to engage the person and do whatever you can to do. Hey, Mike, look at me. Let's talk. Mike, come over here. I'm over here. Doing something to get them off that. I always kind of equate it to, they're on a railroad track headed for this dark tunnel. All I'm trying to do is to get them diverted to a different track and get them off that one going down the tunnel, because that's all you can really do is that moment, get them off that tunnel. Whatever I can do to get them off that railroad track, that's kind of what you're trying to do. Yeah,
they call it the OODA loop, right? And the tactical partners are very familiar with that phrase. You have to interrupt that OODA loop. And so if they're so focused on dying, you have to give some sort of spark or diversion that pulls them back to a momentary sense of reality. And so, I think each negotiator needs to develop, something in their back pocket. That's kind of their last ditch effort. And for me, it's Mountain Dew. And if I have somebody who I think is, nothing's working, we're not saying the right things, we're not listening enough, something's going awry. The thing I will do is always ask, have you ever had an ice cold Mountain Dew? And kind of leave that hanging. It's stupid, right? Like, why would you ask me that? That has nothing to do with anything we said. And then tie it back to a biological function. Like, when I was in high school doing 2-a-day football practices, my mom would bring me an ice cold Mountain Dew. And so there's nothing better than the feeling of that ice cold Mountain Dew on the back of your throat. It's totally irrelevant to anything, but it's enough to interrupt that OODA loop. It's that last ditch effort that I think all negotiators have to develop, something that they can go to as a last ditch card to play.
Just something to get them wanting to live again, whatever that's that Mountain Dew, or, hey, you got a birthday coming up next week, whatever that could be, looking for that last little piece to get them maybe to, again, get off that train track. So,
that was a diversion.
Yeah.
Speaking of train track.
There we go. Right. So back to the car. So we just see this whole dramatic thing with Lou, right? So that's why Lou's there. So that's why Lou's in this car. He doesn't want Brad to kill himself, because I don't think it's necessarily it's what it's going to do to Brad. I think Lou's afraid what it's going to do to Lou.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's already happened to Lou once. And if this guy ends up killing himself, I don't know if Lou will come back from that kind of thing. So he's literally crying, telling this guy, hey, man, I've lived through this. I don't want you to do what I was going to do, kind of a thing. And realizing that it was a mistake. And, now it's just give me the gun kind of a thing. So I think that was, even though it's never going to happen, we're going to be sitting next to the guy that's suicidal with the gun. I think those kind of conversations do happen, I think, between negotiator and a suicidal person. Especially if you've had something like that happen to where you've had a bad one. Like,
and Pat, you and I as team leaders, when we get on scene and we're picking who we want to talk to this person as primary, that is something that we would take into consideration as well, right? Is Lou going to be emotionally intelligent enough or emotionally stable enough to talk with somebody like this? And we do think about things like that before we put somebody on the phone or talking to somebody. Past trauma and stuff like that, is this going to affect them in a way that they're not going to be able to negotiate effectively?
Yeah, and that's one of the toughest jobs as a team leader, knowing Lou's background. But is it something like, well, maybe maybe Lou needs this win. Maybe Lou needs this confidence builder, and I have confidence in Lou knowing that he can do this. So it's always tough, because again, like we said, we can't determine the outcome. It's at the end of the day, Brad's going to decide if Brad wants to kill himself, and that's kind of be how it goes. And then you have to really think about, what if Brad does kill himself? How is Lou gonna be able to react with that? I know I work with another guy, Gary. He had a guy on his team that went through like 2 or 3 in a row where they ended up ending their lives, and it was just too much for him. He ended up having to walk away from the team. And it's just one of those things that, you know what, it is what it is. You know, he couldn't determine that outcome. He tried, and at the end of the day, he just realized, like, man, I don't think I can do another one. I don't think I can have another. Not that it's a failure, but it's that person's decision. But that's what it feels like sometimes when you're that negotiator.
Yeah.
So we're kind of having this big dramatic, you know, Lou's kind of bearing his soul to Brad and having this thing, you know, hey, I believe you're innocent. You are innocent, kind of a thing. And at the end of the day, Brad ends up putting the gun away, and it's almost like kind of like anticlimactic.
Yeah.
You know, he puts the gun down, and then it's just like cut scene. We're over. Don't show Brad getting medical attention. You know, nothing. It just kind of like over, right? And the crisis scene, right? Fast forward to Lou at home. That's kind of how it went. So a little bit of I think less drama there. When I think maybe that's really where the drama happens, is the ending. You know, because you really don't know how it's going to end until it's over, kind of a thing. So I think maybe do a better job of showing the ending of what happens, you know, as far as, okay, put the gun down, now what happens, right? Kind of a thing. So maybe do a little bit better job of that. So they show, you know, Lou's kind of having to talk with his son, you know, just, hey, how the day went, all that kind of thing. And then it flashes back to him in Chicago, and you can see he's in like a support group, having a little conversation, obviously about what happened with the kid. And with all the other things going on, son saying him not killing himself, and you know, he's kind of leaving, and then someone walks up to him, and they're just, hey, really appreciate you here telling your story. And then that's when he kind of just lays it out of, you know what, I'm gonna have to leave Chicago just because it's too much for me. There's too many memories, too many bad memories. I think I'm gonna go somewhere warmer. And then that's kind of how it ends, as he was walking off in the snow. So I think Lou did really well, ended up somewhere warmer, right? I mean, I don't know if you can get any better than Hawaii as far as climate, but yeah, so that's the end.
Yeah, it's one of the other aspects of, I'm sorry to interrupt. It's one of the other aspects of Hawaii. I've not been to Hawaii, but I do know people that live in Hawaii, and it might just be that the people that live in Hawaii, they kind of just don't know what they got till they're not there anymore. But there are places inside of Hawaii that are not awesome.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I want everyone to remember that, because it's not always awesome.
Yeah. What'd you have, Mike?
I was going to say, when I was thinking about this episode and I wrote down the formula, was tension, past trauma, easy fix. Cool.
Right.
This episode is what it boiled down to. Is you mentioned, Pat, not showing the outcome. Every single person that I've negotiated with, there's always been an element of after negotiations, whether that be providing a cigarette that we promised, or you know, just even standing there talking to them while we're waiting for the ambulance or somebody. There's always an element, right, after the person decides to peacefully resolve the situation. There's always an element afterwards of the interaction between whoever's around them, and that's why I always try and humanize, even if they're gonna come out to our SWAT team. First of all, it's important that we have a good relationship with our SWAT teams, but then humanizing them as well. So I try and find out who's going to be giving commands when they come out. And so there's a human element. Hey, when you come out, look for Alex. Alex is going to be the one talking to you. And so there's always a human element when people are coming out. That's, I think, what they missed in the show was that you know, that reconnection between somebody deciding they're going to, you know, resolve the situation to when it's over. It just kind of ended.
Yeah, and I think what kind of got missed too is I could be wrong, it's Hawaii, but as far as I know, I don't think there's any criminal charges against Brad, because he didn't kill his wife. He's in a vehicle wanting to kill himself. So maybe play that up a little bit more, you know, like, hey, this guy is not going to go to jail. We're going to take him to a hospital, get him some help, you know, but I think that just gets underplayed also, to where, you know, at the end, maybe people are thinking, well, oh my gosh, this guy probably went to jail afterwards, right? No, that's not the case, but let's show that. And, you know, maybe, and again, like you said, maybe make it a little bit more human aspect. One of the cases I can remember vividly is we had a veteran, he was in crisis. He actually did take his wife hostage in a parking garage, but he was dealing with a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, when we finally got him in custody, he literally fell on the pavement and just started weeping. And it was telling all of our SWAT guys, "Oh, I'm sorry. But the compassion of our tactical guys, like, it's all right, man. It's all right. Hey, we're here to help you. Everything's okay now. But that gets so missed in Hollywood. Yeah. It's like, oh, we're not going to show SWAT guys, the big tough guys, actually feeling the guy's a human. He's a human. He's a veteran. A lot of veterans on our tactical team. Some of them may know what this guy's going through, so let's make it more the human aspect, and let's show that in some of these shows instead of just like the dramatic, oh, it's over. I think that kind of left a little bit of,
Here's a Band-Aid for your shoulder. See you later.
Right. Yeah. Right. So,
Michael, there's a component that you brought up that I'd like to dig into a little bit. The relationship between negotiator team and the TAC team. There's always an element of sandpaper that's felt there somehow. Especially as the role player, I can detect it when I know we're working with people that are more tactical centric versus people that are wanting to not only learn more about the craft of crisis negotiation, but then also utilize and hone the skills of crisis negotiation. What is the magic sauce that you have found that works best with working with your TAC team and the crisis negotiator team as they clash together and then try and get something done? What is the chemistry set piece in the middle that's helping that?
Yeah, you have to build bridges to each other. You both have the same mission, preservation of life. You just come at it a different way. From the negotiator perspective, we have to do everything we can to be involved with our TAC team. If they're going to do a workout, go work out with them. If they're going to go to the range and shoot, see if you can go shoot with them in the range. And from their perspective, if we're going to do something, invite them to a level 1, a basic school. Invite them to your monthly or quarterly trainings and have them, take a hot seat in a back-to-back or something like that. Mm-hmm. You have to see the other's perspective so that you can understand what the other person is doing. Because if you don't, all they think we're doing is sitting inside of a bus, eating pizza, drinking coffee, while they're sitting in the 32-degree light snow and thinking about what in the hell are those negotiators doing. And from our perspective, again, if we don't build a bridge to them, all we're thinking is like, oh, these guys just want to break in this house and kill this guy, or it's just going to be straight to gas or whatever it is. So it really is important that both sides actively engage in communication and train together, work together, eat together. Just everything you can do to build that bridge really reduces that friction. Because I've seen it in teams where there's no communication. They get to a site and it's just the two sides working against each other.
Oh, and I'm so glad that you talked about that too, because what we're seeing now, especially with the incorporation of more mental health people coming in from that side, you now not only have what is essentially two teams that have to grind against each other to find some sort of chemistry set, you now have a third element that's being sprinkled in, and they're from every walk of life you can imagine.
Yeah.
And again, it really does get back to communication. Isn't that funny that we're talking specifically about communication, and it's specifically about communication?
Yeah, well, that's funny because I always had this joke is sometimes even the professional communicators can't communicate. There's been, I say this, but there's been a lot of call outs where we had, one of our problems was we missed communication somewhere between the team. And even when professionals do it, that's how big it is, how big communication is. Mm-hmm. And, just making sure you have it right and just working through that sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you'll see that pay off, Pat. And we had a really big call out last January, and it was probably the biggest one I've had in my career. And you can see the relationships because when we were looking at putting negotiators inside of a Bearcat to go down range, when I asked the tactical team leader, hey, is there room for a negotiator? He said, you don't have to ask. You know there's a seat. It's the same seat you guys always have. And that is where those relationships pay off big time, is that you have that working relationship that they want you with them.
Dude, that is bitching. I can't tell you how exciting that is. That is awesome.
Yeah. So it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, I think it, like you said, it's trained together. Just kind of be that one team. The other thing is I always equate to like, well, why do we need to get negotiators on search warrants? Well, number one, what if something happens? But the other thing is we do a lot more search warrants than we do barricades. So as they see all these negotiators hanging out in the barricade with them, getting to know them, they become more familiar with them. They know their skill set. Now it's more like, oh, I know this guy. That's Pat. He comes out all these search warrants. It just builds that confidence, right? So why not have your negotiators go out on search warrants, even if it's just to help the team? You know, we may never be used, but we're there just in case. But it also it makes that ingredient work well when you have those two teams, and now they're starting to get to know each other. I think that's a huge factor sometimes.
Yep.
All right, so that's the ending. So something we always kind of do here at the end is we always talk about the goods and the bads, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So Mike, go ahead with your goods.
Well, I love that they bother to show crisis negotiation at all. I hate that we have to say that every time we start talking about television shows like this bad, but it's true. There needs to be something else shown beyond what they're showing with crisis negotiators. We've talked about a bunch of really great samples, but the first good here is that I'm glad that we're able to see some more crisis negotiation.
Yeah, for sure. Michael, what do you got? You're good.
Yeah, I think the good is the human element that we saw throughout. There was some emotion that we saw and some trauma that I think is applicable to our field.
Yeah. And my good's kind of what you're saying is like the mental health aspect of it, of not just our guy's Brad's mental health, because he's accused of killing his wife and that's bad for him. But then you have Lou's mental health, right? Lou's dealing with like past incidents that didn't go well for him, and he didn't cope with it the best, you know, and then he got better at it. And then just showing like mental health plays a lot into these incidents, both for the cops and the people we're dealing with.
Yeah. Something Pat and I were talking about before we started recording today was the propensity for Hollywood to just paint cops bad. It's so frustrating because I know how many great stories there are inside of everything copdom, and that the only ones that people either want to latch onto or write are something bad is so terribly frustrating in Hollywood. I can remember when there was the waft of The Rip with Damon and Affleck coming, and I'm like, wow, what is that going to be? And unfortunately, I didn't know the vernacular of what The Rip was inside of Policedom. And then Pat came in to record one day, and suddenly it was a crashing, thunderous thud of wet fart sound because it's nothing good.
Yeah. So it's always somehow a crooked cop somewhere, right? So I mean, it's just always I don't understand like why does that always have to be the Hollywood thing? That's the crooked cop.
And again, that's why I wanted to latch on here is that I'm glad that they not only showed that cops are human, but they gave a tiny little finger sandwich of what's going on with that dude and showing that how his life had impacted him, but then also the changes that he had made to try and change what was going on in his life. I think that's extraordinary, and that's completely missing from just about every piece of entertainment.
100%. And now the bads. Mike, what do you got?
I know everybody's sick of me saying it inside of the What Cops Watch episodes, but I have to say it again. I hates me the 43 to 47 minute demon, because especially nowadays where you can actually extend through to whatever timestamp you want, as long as you are engaging an audience and you're giving them solid storytelling and elements that are crafted to help keep their attention span. Man, it's awesome. And you can really craft really great stories. But if you don't do any of that, it's just shit.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the 43 to 47 minute demon bites this one square in the ass.
100%. What do you got, Mike?
There was not a single good negotiation tactic or strategy involved here. Negotiation in name only.
Yeah. That's my bads. The tactics were just so horrible and so over the top. It's just like, this is like what not to do as far as negotiation and even from the tactical standpoint. And then just again, like the pissing match between the negotiator, like the negotiator is the guy that's supposed to calm the scene down, and you show him coming in like he's the ego driven guy that's going to take it. It's like, that's just not what happened. Now, could it? Yeah, it could, but not usually what I've seen. So, and then obviously, you know, the investigation aspect of it. Hey, everything's solved in 40 something minutes. Right. Yeah, how do we solve that problem? Is it like, hey, let's maybe take 2 or 3 episodes for a case instead of the 1 episode per case thing? I don't know. I mean, there has to be something better out there.
That would assume that people can stomach there being more colors than the 3 colors in the box of crayons given for television.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, I think it might be changing just simply because the format of television is completely changing. When you start putting things on the internet, people can kind of take in whatever they want as they want. I think what you can see is that more colors can be showcased. So again, the sample is if you go to the restaurant, inside the restaurant, there is the coloring sheet for your children. And then there's a box of crayons that is not the Crayola crayons. It's the super kick-ass China crayons where there's 3 crayons and they kind of look like the colors.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's that. That's what we're getting inside of this episode.
Right. Yeah.
What we're looking for is we're looking for the giant kick-ass 64 box color crayons from Crayola that have the frickin' sharpener in the back of it so that you can actually get some storytelling told.
Yeah.
And I so thirst for that, Pat, because you and I and Michael and everybody that's watching this episode, we all know that we have seen it and it can be done. But it has to be done. It has to be crafted and then showcased to an audience. To do that, you have to then assume that the audience is not an idiot. And I think that the people that crafted this episode thought that the audience were idiots. And so we got to dumb everything down. It's got to be super quick. And by the way, 43, 47 minutes done and send it.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
Yeah. So at the end, we don't have a rating system here on this part. We just call it the call out. And what it basically means is, hey, was this worth actually getting activated? Or was this just a waste of our time and resources? That's kind of what usually happens on call outs. So was this worth it or not? Mike, what do you got?
I always tell people this, especially when I review something bad, because you have to remember that if all we did was rip on stuff like this, believe it or not, no matter how entertaining Pat is, you get very sick of just hearing thundering crash on whatever we're reviewing. And so what I always take from things like this is that this opportunity that we have crafted allows the chemistry set of meeting people like Michael and all of Pat's guests and the potential people that listen to this episode to learn something not only about crisis negotiation, but remember, guys, this is all about learning something about yourself. Something inside this episode, while you may not have been delivering pizza to a dude with a gun in a car, you may not be a cop that lives in Hawaii and worries about which kind of suntan lotion you're going to put on this morning. But something inside this episode resonated with you. I'm not entirely sure what it might be, but it does. And that's why we're doing this. That's the big get for me for all of this.
Yeah. Michael, what do you have?
Yeah, the realism here is that all across the country, there are vehicle standoffs probably weekly. If not daily. Yeah. And so is this a call out? Yes, it is a call out. My teams will probably deal with 1 or 2 a year, vehicle standoffs, usually after a police chase or a domestic where the person goes on the run and they stop in the middle of the road with a gun, and that's how we negotiate with them. So yes, that is a realism factor that this does happen frequently across the United States all the time. But it's not just going to be a negotiator; it's going to be a team call out.
Right, and that's always usually gets lost in the sauce too. Is this Hollywood version of the negotiator? Right, it's that one dude, and really there's a whole team of people that are working towards this. I think always, for the most part, kind of gets missed in these episodes. But yeah, I'm going to agree with what Mike said. Anytime we can take time to educate people on what negotiators do, what we really bring to the table, I think it's worth it. Not as such as is the episode the greatest, probably not, but we get to come together and talk about what we really do, how it affects us, and just let the community know. And then other cops too. Sometimes other cops don't even know what negotiators do. So I think that's something that we always bring to the table is just having that discussion about, hey, this is what we do. This is what's real and what's not. So that's kind of the purpose of What Cops Watch, right? So
yeah. I think there's another piece there too, Pat. These are wonderful seed moments for people that might be considering crisis negotiation.
Yeah.
Again, we are trying to put some context that is not the Hollywood labeled, shoved into a bag and given to people with a plastic spoon that is crisis negotiation. We're trying to give you some of the elements that allow you to take in what is crisis negotiation, not only understand what they do, but especially if you're a cop, especially if you're looking for something else to enhance a skill set that has very often nothing to do with anything else that you are doing currently, especially if you're inside of the TAC vein. This is the way. There is an avenue for you to start honing different skill sets that you may have never, ever used. And I think it's incredibly valuable. Being able to talk allows you to go to anything in life. And again, the tenets, the pieces, parts, and the bits of the chemistry set that get spilled onto you just with working inside a crisis negotiation, much less being a crisis negotiator yourself, I think they're solid gold.
100%.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think crisis negotiation is the only specialty within law enforcement that's sole mission is preservation of life. It's if you're a K-9 officer, you're doing dual purpose or tri-purpose. If you're on the TAC team, you're preparing to shoot somebody, if a hostage rescue. If you're a diver, you're doing recovery operations. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't think of a single other specialty inside law enforcement that's sole focus is preservation of life.
I love that you took time to say that, because I don't think people get that. And it's something that Gary Nesner loves to talk about. I think he also gets all kinds of just sandpaper moments because he loves to talk about that aspect, but I think it's super important.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps up this episode.
Yeah, and so that's actually where we ask you guys, what did you think of what we talked about, not only inside this episode, but this episode of Hawaii Five-0, Season 8, Episode
13.
Episode 13.
Let's double check that. Yes, Season 8, Episode 13.
Season 8, Episode 13.
What is gone is gone, which I think, again, fits the theme, right?
Yeah, it does. We're also going to link off to that episode so that you can go and watch this on your own time. Which app is it on?
Paramount Plus.
Paramount Plus. Okay. So we're going to link to that. The Paramount Plus app needs a giant overhaul.
Oh yeah.
So my apologies
all
for
of them, I think do.
Yeah. So my apologies for having to navigate that. But again, if you go and listen to that, what we would love to know what you guys think is, what did you think of what we shared? Let us know what you think by going over to the website. Again, it's WhatCopsWatch.com. Fill out the quick web form real quick and tell us what you think. Michael, thanks so much for joining us today inside of the WhatCopsWatch.com knock. Pat's over at you bet, dude. Is there a way for people to reach out to you if they're curious, more curious about you and what's going on in Iowa and state police?
Find me on LinkedIn. Yeah, all my information is there.
Okay, great. I'm going to be sure to include that inside the show notes, not only here inside the description of the video, but then also over at the show notes over at WhatCopsWatch.com. That's great. Pat,
and we're hiring too. So if you don't want to live in Hawaii, you want to come to Iowa, we're hiring. So
right. Yeah.
I'll be right over. It'll take just 8 minutes. Seriously.
Yeah.
And then Pat, where can people reach you from?
So crisiscop.com, we have all of our podcasts out there, and then anything that's going on in my world as far as any kind of conferences, trainings we're doing. So just check it out.
Okay, great. I'm so grateful that everybody watched and listened today. Again, go to WhatCopsWatch.com, listen to the previous shows, tell us more about what you think about what's going on with cops. More importantly, learn more about the people behind the badge via WhatCopsWatch.com. Until next time, I'm Mike Wilkerson, one of your hosts.
And I'm Pat Doering, the Crisis Cop.
I'm Michael Clyde, Iowa State Patrol. Happy to be here.
Outstanding. Thanks again for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.
This is the end of your tour of duty. Another episode of What Cops Watch has been filed in records.
But another scene is taking shape. So many criminal stories, so little time.
Check back again soon to WhatCopsWatch.com and join us back in the squad room for your next assignment. Don't be late.
Are you a cop?
You want to tell us about what you watch and why?
Contact us by visiting WhatCopsWatch.com.
And listen to the next episode of WhatCopsWatch.com.